Hello, everybody. Hello, Evan.
Hello, Cameron.
How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Left Unread podcast. I am Cameron, as always, joined by my friend. You love him, you know him, Evan.
Yep.
Right. And you know, as I'm sure you guys have learned, the subject matter of the show, while varied, we really like to offer you guys the hard hitting facts, the unread side of history, if you will. Yeah. We like to talk about the darker side of humanity. We like to talk about
the unwashed foreskin of the world.
the seedy underbelly, the
smegma ridden filth.
Yeah. And so today, in keeping with that, we want to talk about one of the most vile, one of the most sinister, one of the most misbegotten cultural innovations that has marred the face of humanity for the last 2,000 years. We're talking, of course, about Christmas. This is our Christmas special. I don't know that we've ever really done a holiday special outside of maybe Halloween.
I mean, usually we barely even record anything in December.
I know.
Usually,
we're like so busy. And
for us. Yeah.
Genuinely, like I am exhausted. I've been doing nothing but work and living like a crazy person right now, and I know you're in the same boat.
Yep.
But this year, I wanted to break the trend of that, and I actually have written quite a substantial episode for you all.
Yep.
And my plan is also to try to finish El Cid before the end of the year, but
who's to
say?
Said that.
Who's to say? But this I actually did get done, and we've got quite a lot to get through today. So I won't delay much. But how have you been? How are you doing?
Not too bad. If you would allow me an indulgence,
of course.
I would like to perhaps do our end of episode spiel at the beginning of the episode.
Sure.
If you would allow me to do it. Yeah, so folks, do you like us? Do you love us? Are you our friends? Well, you can become an even better friend to us by supporting the podcast in a number of ways. You can go to www.patreon.com/leftunread. You can go there, you type that into your web browser. If you're on an Apple product, don't use the app because they will charge you an extra 30% on top of what you give to us. So just go to www.patreon.com/leftunread. And you can choose a number of different donation levels. And the reason I wanted to do this at the beginning of the episode is, first of all, I'm sure many of you tune out by the time we get to this for most episodes. But also, we like to shout out our new patrons. And we had a very generous donation of a new Con of Cons tier. That's the highest tier. Patron. So our new favorite listener is Vivek. So Vivek, thank you very much for this kind donation. And do you
think it's Vivek Ramaswamy?
No, I can see the last name, and if it was Vivek Ramaswamy, I would say I know you're loaded and you can support us even more. But no. So yes, so we wanted to thank you, Vivek. That was very kind of you.
Yes, also, thank you, Vivek. We love you.
Yes, we love you more than our other fans, except for the other Con of Cons ones. We love them all the most.
They're all number one.
Yeah, it's a tie.
Tied for our favorite children.
Yeah. But also you can support us in other ways. You can rate and review us on your podcast app of choice. That helps us get boosted in the algorithm. That helps us find new listeners. And you can also help us spread by word of mouth. So you can tell your family. You can tell your friends. You can, when some jolly fat son of a bitch comes falling down your chimney on the 25th, you can be like, hey, Santa, just by the way, why don't you gift some people a Left Unread Patreon subscription? Yeah. So you can do that. Yep. Do
you think Santa is materially wealthy, or do you think it's sort of like a southern plantation owner where he's more wealthy in sort of land and cost-effective labor options? Like, do you think Santa has money? Or does he just benefit from slave labor?
Yeah, I think he's. I think it's kind of like a slave situation going on in the North Pole there. Yeah, and the elf mines. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah,
you heard it here first, folks. Santa would have supported the Confederacy.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah. Anyway,
well, yes. So thank you, Evan. And don't be a Scrooge. It is the season, and that's something we're going to discuss a little bit today. We're going to talk, as I said, about the phenomenon of Christmas. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more, but why don't we start the show here? We'll drop our beautiful, hot, sexy theme music, courtesy of Interesting Times Gang. We always drop a link to their stuff on Bandcamp in the show notes, but in the season of generosity and giving, I want to do a little verbal shout out as well to them. They are, of course, friend of the pod, Ian, who's been on the show several times, and we want you to go buy some of their stuff.
He's kind of been on every episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Way, yeah.
He's the unspoken third cast member here.
Yeah.
So anyway, without further ado, let's get the show started for the first ever Left Unread Christmas/holiday spectacular.
Bash.
So as I said, good morrow to you all, and welcome to a special December holiday edition of the Left Unread podcast. We are in a very specific season here in the Western world, particularly in the United States. That is right. We are in the quote-unquote holiday season. Now,
and you know what? It's kind of a winter wonderland out there right
now. It's beautiful.
So,
I was going to ask, are you getting snow in...
It was supposed to be like a snow-rain mix, so I thought it wasn't going to accumulate. No, we got like...
Yeah,
a couple inches. Yeah,
it's beautiful out here as well. I woke up this morning in lovely Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's spectacular. And then, so I got to tell you, actually, really quickly, we got invited. My girlfriend's friends invited us over for like a little brunch thing today, and one of her friends is Indian, and so they made dosas and like all the fixings for dosas. Brother, I think fucking white people brunch is over, dude. I think I'm a dosa man.
I would like that.
Yeah, it was really good. Well, he taught me how to make them, and gave me some
Indian
batter.
Food
and
is so goated, man.
He's so cool. This guy. He's like, the world is full of like partners' friends, like your friends that are your friends through your partner or your relationship, and he's cool, and he's taught me a lot of really fun culinary things, and he's a nice guy, and so taught me how to make dosas. They slap so hard. If you haven't had dosas, I'm sure if there's an Indian restaurant near you, you have access to them. You should get them. They're the best. But yeah, it's like a beautiful, wonderful snowy morning, and kind of perfect. It's almost like we're having our white Christmas for our Christmas episode. So it's the holiday season, and it feels very holiday-ish here. And I think in the sort of Western Christian tradition, which is sort of where we're going to be fixated here, because as you know, Evan and I are sort of obsessed with the history of religions in general and European Christian history in particular, stemming from our time in school together. Yep. And the big two holidays in that sort of tradition are Christmas and New Year's in this time of year. Obviously, Easter is the most important, but in the quote-unquote holiday season, you've got Christmas, you've got New Year's. And then if you are talking about the United States, you can kind of expand that into what I would think of as like our sort of big four holidays that all happen around this time of year. You got Hanukkah, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got New Year's. And so that sort of, usually Hanukkah kind of falls in between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and Christmas is obviously sort of right in the middle there. And so that little stretch here has become this sort of identifiable season here, specifically in the States. Now, we're living in the midst of a thriving Christian ethno-nationalist movement. And with that being said, it's sort of easy to forget that the bulk of the holidays that we celebrate in this country, and indeed in this hemisphere, are actually secular holidays. We have lots of holidays, but the big ones are these Christian holidays. And those ethnic nationalist Christian freaks will always try to make everything about the veneration of the Christian God. So 4th of July, whatever. It's always circling back to that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to talk about a day that really gets those yahoos sort of bouncing off the walls, you've got to look at Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
Christmas is big with the freaks.
Oh, the freaks love Christmas. Now, I grew up celebrating Christmas. And I still actually enjoy it to a certain extent, more so now as I get older than I did probably in my 20s. But personally, I sort of enjoy like a Dickensian approach to Christmas. It's about giving and family and peace and joy, and I love the Muppet Christmas Carol, and that's sort of where it lines up for me. When I was a kid, we did the lights, and we did leave milk and cookies out for Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. I will say, if you are listening to this show right now with a child who still believes in Santa Claus, because he's real. First off, what the fuck are you doing listening to this show with your kid? But also, second,
this is not a child-friendly show.
But also, like, this is your warning if you need one. Get the fuck out of here, right? Like, we're not going to be, we're not maintaining.
You shouldn't listen to the show with your child.
You shouldn't listen to the show with your child. But if you are, get out of here.
This is all. I think apropos. Don't listen to the show.
Just don't listen
about diarrhea and jacking off.
We don't.
Time.
Yeah.
Every episode features some kind of vile little asides. So
right.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Right. Evan and I both have plenty of outlets for child-friendly activity in our lives as members
nephews.
of the good uncles brigade.
Yeah.
We don't need that on our show. So
the Gub.
Yeah, the Gub.
Proud Gubbers.
And you don't want to join Bub, the bad uncles brigade.
Yeah.
Or no, bad uncles. Maybe we call it bad uncles army. I don't know.
Platoon. Bad uncle platoon. Bap.
Bup.
You got Gub and Bap.
Bup. Bad uncles platoon.
Bup.
Yeah.
Gub and Bup.
Yeah. So there's Gub and Bup.
Gub up.
We're in Gub. We're not in Bup.
Yeah.
But so, and I don't know,
action.
Evan, I don't know if your Christmas experience was different than that, but mine was pretty secular outside of the basic trappings. Like, Jesus was not really a part of my Christmas. We didn't go to church. We didn't do...
When I was really young, my parents were still kind of fucking with the whole Catholicism thing. Like, we would go to Mass. We would go to, like, the Christmas Eve Mass, stuff like that. But by the time I was, like, 5 or 6, that was when all the priests were touching on the kids' stories coming out with Massachusetts. Right. That was about the time that my parents were like, "Yeah, I don't think we gotta do this anymore.
Maybe we don't need to sacrifice our beloved supple son to the to the hideous church."
Yeah. So after that, it was pretty secular. I will say I was quite skeptical at a certain age of the existence of Santa Claus, and I set up like little puzzles. I was like, if you're real, you'll have to like complete this. Like,
right. As if like any adult, whether he's real or not,
couldn't just
would
do
like
that.
Right.
And
your dad could, but also like Santa might just be like, I'm busy and won't be doing your puzzle.
Yeah, and so like I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, something like that. I don't know. And I like come downstairs.
That's so fucking Evan coded. That's hysterical. Even then, you were like a game theory freak, and you were just like, surely Santa, if you would prove your existence, you would.
So then when I come downstairs, my parents are just like, "Hey, Evan, look, it looks like Santa Claus completed like the little assignment you gave him, basically." And I was just sitting there, I was like, "What the fuck?
How is this possible?"
It was like, obviously my dad just did it.
Right, your dad's just like, luckily I'm still smarter than an 8-year-old.
Luckily I can outsmart a 7-year-old still.
Oh my god, dude. I'm sure he was looking at you just like, this boy is going to be a challenge. Yeah, there's going to be some years
asshole.
With this one.
This one's going to be an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like it was mostly similar, though. I mean, we didn't really do Christmas church or anything like that. And I knew that it was about baby Jesus. There's the nativity scenes and whatever. But if it came up at all, for me, it was, because we were watching the 1968 Rankin Bass stop-motion classic, The Little Drummer Boy. Still a tearjerker, I will say.
My mom was big on the nativity. She had this, like, really old, like, handed down through her family, like maybe like this, for like maybe like a 1.5 foot like wide. Like nice little nativity that she would set up.
Yeah,
and she had like all these like little set up like little like winter village things on the
barrows. My dad had a big winter village. That was his thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't think it contained a nativity, but it, little sledding kids and all that shit.
Yeah, we put the nativity on the fireplace.
I love a nativity scene, and I think Evan and I don't want to speak for you, but I think Evan and I probably are in agreement on this, that we both love Christian and Catholic imagery, and we love the pageantry of it and the ritual and all of that. I think if you've listened to this show for any amount of time at this point, that probably isn't surprising to you. Not that we're believers, but there's something kind of intentionally magical feeling about the way specifically the Catholic Church has managed
Orthodox
to
too, man. I got
the Orthodox Church. I just don't have any
like,
experience
I was
with
just
it.
gonna say, man, the Catholics and the Orthodox folks, they got that shit going.
Yeah, 100%. The more Protestant a Christian denomination gets, the less cool it is by leaps and bounds. Like Reformed Christianity
exponentially,
is so dorky and stupid. Like if I was ever going to go to church, it would be like Orthodox or Catholic or something. Because I want incense and fucking robes and chanting and stuff.
Yeah,
like
I want some ritual shit, man. I want some cannibalism. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I want to eat that body.
Yeah.
But so, while that is the case for many, that Christmas sort of feels like this secular celebration, or some degree of that, for millions of Americans, and for like roughly 2.5 billion people globally, what are we up to, 8 billion people total now?
I don't know.
Something like that.
I try not to think about other people too much.
So that is absolutely not where the story stops with Christmas. It is still very much rooted in religion, which is interesting because if you examine the trappings of the holiday in its modern iteration with the Christmas tree and the feasting and baked goods and yada yada and the presents, which for lots of kids is the draw, at least in America, the commercial homeland of mine, presents rule. Getting stuff is sick.
Getting new dinosaurs to play with.
100% dinosaurs or like
Jurassic Park was my favorite movie when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I had all these dinosaurs. I remember one year I got this cool ass T-Rex that would eat people, and his stomach would open up and you could like pull him out. It's a wonder I ended
toys
up
in the 90s were so cool, man. Like, did you ever have any Ninja Turtles?
Oh yeah. It was
like they had like the pizza launchers.
Street Sharks too. Street Sharks.
Oh, Street Sharks. I had a Street Shark toy. Yeah, Warriors of Virtue. Do you remember the movie Warriors of Virtue about anthropomorphic kung fu kangaroos?
No.
Yeah, it was such a product of the 90s. Beetleborgs, very cool. Power Rangers, all that. Yeah. So yeah, my dad still his story, which is very reminiscent of Jingle All the Way, is of hunting down a Green Ranger action figure for me. The year, it's probably like 1995, and those were like impossible to come by. And he has this whole story about like running around, and he had a friend who was like, "Dude, I don't ask how I got this, but I have one. Do you want it?" And like he like rushed into the city like on like Christmas Eve and like bought it for me, and it's like a whole thing. That and a Spice Girls cassette, which he was probably a little less enthusiastic about, but he got it for me. Shouts out to my pops because Spice World was a fucking ripper every track.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, próspero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, próspero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, próspero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, próspero año.
So anyway, so like I said, the trappings of the holiday now are so sort of unique and divorced from that origin that it's easy to kind of wonder how it all fits in with the story of the birth of a little boy in the Roman province of Palestine in roughly year 0 by our reckoning, because that's still our benchmark. And the thing is, Christmas has become something of a hot button issue here in the United States over the last few decades. For example, did you know, Evan, that there was a war on Christmas going on actively right now?
I've seen it.
It's insane. I had no idea. But it's true. Despite the overwhelming stranglehold that Christianity at large, and Christmas in particular, hold over American culture at this time of year, the professional outrage lobbyists in the broader white Christian nationalist movement have long held that our beloved seasonal celebration is waning, and in fact is under attack from nefarious satanic forces who want to steal our most favoritist day from us and ruin everything that is good and pure about being an American.
I'm joining the war on Christmas on the side of the nefarious satanic forces.
Yeah, dude. And I think a lot of what they're concerned with is the phrase happy holidays, which I'm a happy holidays guy. I love happy holidays because you know what? You can say that from Thanksgiving all the way through, and it applies to everybody. If you're celebrating anything, I hope it's good for you. If all Christmas is to you is a couple days off from work, fuck yeah. I hope that shit rocks, and you get to put your feet up and have a nice time. However that looks, you know?
Drunk at the office holiday party, scanning your butt. Yeah, in the copy machine.
Yeah, that's how Evan does it. But I mean, like, everybody's different, and that's great. But people are freaked out by that phrase. I work in a public service sector, and routinely you can tell, like, there's certain people where you say happy holidays, and they're like, yeah, Merry Christmas. And, like, look, I celebrate Christmas. I don't mind people saying Merry Christmas. I just don't, because I want to extend it to everybody. But I digress. I think that given the current climate in this country, and indeed in this hemisphere, in which the dominant religious, cultural, and ethnic majority are exhibiting this sort of growing tendency to portray themselves as the poor, sniveling, disenfranchised victims of some insidious religious war or attack, I think it's as good a time as any to point out that they're all idolatrous sinners, celebrating a holiday that is perhaps the single greatest example of the ancient and medieval church's ingenuity and syncretic approach to mass conversion. Now, it's essentially an open secret to many, and probably lots of our listeners, that the Christmas holiday may have some not-so-Christian roots. So I'm not claiming to be breaking any new ground here with the episode. However, it is a really kind of fun tie-in to a bunch of stuff that Evan and I like to talk about on the show and have in the past. And heck, 'tis the season. So let's not mince any more words with the intro as we commence with our festive exploration of the Christian and pagan origins of Christmas. The unread story of Christmas.
Yep.
So I'm not going to belabor this first segment here, but I do want to kind of give a brief overview of the traditional Christian view of the Christmas holiday first. For those of us who don't celebrate, or who, like myself, grew up celebrating essentially just like the modern American secular version of Christmas. So the classic version of the Christmas story concerns the Annunciation and the Nativity. The Annunciation being the announcement of the pending birth of Christ, the Messiah. And then the Nativity, which is the birth of Jesus and his arrival.
It's where little 8-pound, 7-ounce baby Jesus like to hang out.
So not all of the Gospels of the New Testament detail Christ's birth. So here we're largely pulling from Luke and Matthew. The quick version, because they're both different in a lot of ways, but the quick version is that the Archangel Gabriel, as one of God's messengers, came forth and revealed themselves to an Aramaic-speaking little Jewish girl named Mary, and told her, hey, congratulations, you are going to be the unwilling vessel of God's Son, who will be born as a man. Doesn't that sound great to you? Now, she agrees to it, but I don't really know if she had a whole lot of choice involved. I don't know if consent is a big part of this. And here the two Gospels differ after this point, with Luke sort of detailing Christ's birth in a manger amongst the animals, the classic kind of nativity scene, because there was no room in the town of Bethlehem for Mary, and the angels sort of proclaiming the birth of the Messiah out to the shepherds in the surrounding fields, who then come to visit little baby Jesus, who is then circumcised, because Jesus was Jewish, and named, and then went on to be Jesus. Later known as Jesus Christ, from the Greek Christos. He's the King, the Son of God, that whole deal. Mm-hmm. Matthew details the coming of the Magi, or the three wise men, as they're often called in English, who were guided to the birth of the Messiah by the burning bright star of Bethlehem, today most identified with the North Star, and they brought him gifts, and then the Holy Family had to flee to Egypt due to King Herod's massacre of the innocent children, and that's basically it, right? Yep. Now, the nativity scene is still a major theme at Christmas, especially common outside of churches or maybe set up on someone's lawn, or as Evan said, like a small version set up on the hearth, or as part of kind of a Christmas village miniature
Real big
scene.
with the Portuguese ladies. Yep.
Portuguese love their statuary.
The nativity, yeah.
And they love statuary, lions and shit out in front of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And I think that rocks.
Yeah.
Wasps don't like stuff like that. They think
wasps.
everything's tacky, and they want just like not like white lights on the Christmas tree and whatever. It's fucking lame. They don't want anything kitschy. They don't want anything fun.
The Portuguese Catholics, from where I'm from, they like the kitsch. They like the shit, the tchotchkes.
Yeah, dude. I'm team tchotchke myself. I'm with that.
Oh, dude,
completely.
you should see my fucking Vavo's place, dude. This woman is like, she's got like a little like trailer and like a retirement community in Florida. The amount of tchotchkes in this place.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Like, dude, she's got shelves full of them.
Yeah. No, does she? She has like miniatures and like.
Yeah.
Does she collect like china?
Yeah, she's got some china. My mom had some. I don't think she really has it anymore. When I was a kid, there was a lot of china, and we had this one like kind of like cupboard that was all of the good silverware and all the china, and we used it like twice a year, like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah. I love that. So to clarify, when I mention waspy stuff, I'm not actually really a wasp. Like, my family are
wasp stock,
sort of, but like my family are like poor, like New England rednecks. So like, It's a little different.
You're not
like
pre-revolutionary.
No, like my family came here as indentured servants through Canada. So like ditch diggers, long line of pig farmers and ditch diggers.
Yeah.
And so like my grandmother has all kinds of dumb shit. She has a wall of spoons and stuff, whatever. But I'm more referring, and we'll come back to this later. But New England specifically has a long and kind of embattled history with Christmas, and the traditional like sort of austere, stoic New England approach to Christmas is maybe not the most fun, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So like when you're looking at like a New England Home Magazine, the way that they show a house, like my ex-girlfriend from college, who you know, her family's house around Christmas, it was like sterile and upsetting, and I hated it.
That's great.
And me growing up, we had like glowing, flashing lights and all kinds of dumb little singing ornaments, and like I love that stuff. I like a tacky Christmas.
Oh yeah, I remember that weekend after Thanksgiving when all the Christmas lights go up. My dad would be out there all day long.
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
Stapling the lights all over the place.
That's the part of Christmas that I like.
You could hear him on the light just...
Yeah, but then afterwards, I bet he was like, check out the fucking house. It looks unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Daddy did that.
And then he would just stand out there and just...
Look at it. Look at the lights. I did that.
Yeah. Sweating and swearing all day long.
Yeah, dude.
And afterwards, it's like, fuck yeah.
I definitely, if I ever own a home, I will definitely be a lights guy. I like that stuff. I want weird, like, candy canes in the yard and shit. It's awesome. And nobody does it anymore. Anyway, I digress. So, referencing back to the traditional biblical New Testament version of the Nativity, that version of events is still technically the most important to Christians, maybe during a church service or a sermon. And truthfully, that's basically all that's in the Bible. There's nothing about gifts or trees or wreaths, certainly not about Santa or reindeer or any of that. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked if it snowed in Palestine on the day of Christ's birth. Now, partly because it's in a warmer region of the earth, but it gets cold there in the winter.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Also, it's because Christ was probably not born in December. Now, as I said, it does still get cold there. Snow is maybe less prevalent. And having an outdoor birth while shepherds were still in their fields, as in the biblical narrative, when when Gabriel flies out and all the shepherds are out tending their flocks who are grazing in the fields, which are still filled with grass, not exactly pointing to a winter event. Mm-hmm. Also, astronomers have pointed out that the visibility of the Star of Bethlehem, which we tend to assume is the North Star, would have been far less prevalent in December during the time of Christ, when he was reported to have been born. Heck, even the date of Jesus' birth is widely distributed. Widely distributed? What is this, an Amazon warehouse at Christmas time? Hey. Widely disputed, with historians only broadly agreeing that it occurred sometime within 5 years or so of the year we now call 1 CE, or 1 AD, Anno Domini, year of our Lord. I should say that thanks largely to the Romans being particularly legible and fastidious record keepers, the general consensus among historians is that Jesus did exist. And so I'm not going to be making any wild claims to that effect. Like, he probably was real. Just to say that the narrative around him is muddied at best.
A little preview for what I'm going to be doing in 2026. I will be getting into some claims that Jesus was not real, or even not a human, or even not an animal.
Was he an Anunnaki?
Fungus.
Hell yeah, dude. Animal?
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to be getting into some weird Gnostic, like kind of like a successor series to the Ancient Mysteries. Going to get into some weird
modern mysteries.
Yeah. No. These, I mean, still ancient, but it'll be more.
They think Jesus was a mushroom? Oh, I get it.
Like a mushroom cult. Yeah.
I get it.
A mushroom cult of people eating psilocybin.
Interesting. That sounds like something some like house musician would get really into. Anyway, but whatever. So there's all these kind of loosey-goosey elements to the timeline and the narrative surrounding the birth of Christ, which are, maybe logical inconsistencies. And I think for a lot of believers, the answer to that is sort of just like, whatever, have faith. This is what we believe, and just roll with it, right? Like, we're not here to mince words and like get into the nitty-gritty. But Evan and I are here to do exactly that. So we are going to dig in and discuss some of the theories and facts surrounding the metamorphosis from this, frankly, rather bare-bones biblical accounting of the birth of Christ into the current global Christmas phenomenon and its religious and secular iterations, and kind of where those overlap. So the first big historical obstacle facing the development of the Christmas holiday was actually a pretty all-encompassing one. And that is to say that early Christians and their leading minds, or the philosophers, often called the church fathers, folks like Ambrose, Augustine of Hippo, John Chrysostom, big heavy hitters, they spent quite a long time, like hundreds of years, debating whether it was even proper to celebrate normal birthdays, let alone the birthdays of saints or even the Messiah Christ himself. Early Christian figures like Origen, from circa 185 to 253 CE, and Tertullian, 155 to 220 AD, they argued that the celebration of birthdays was firmly ensconced in pagan tradition, with Origen going so far as to claim that only evil sinners like Herod and Pharaoh engaged in such celebration in scriptural examples. So as there was no scriptural evidence of any saint ever celebrating their birthday, it would be improper to assume that such a celebration of Christ should ever take place. And that's a very literalist scriptural approach, which in early Christian days was kind of the prominent outlook on things. We can probably most associate that with like the way that modern Muslims are meant to approach prayer and worship. They take a very literalist approach to scripture. It is the unaltered, uncreated word of God, and should not be deviated from. So if the Quran says this is how you pray, that's how you pray, right? Yep. Early Christians, that was a huge part of their approach to the religion. And where that kind of gets muddied is, as Evan and I have talked about on the show and was a big part of our education, Christianity evolved over the ensuing 300 to 500 years after the life of Christ, when Roman and Greek, and to a lesser extent, other Eastern traditions sort of had this ideological influx into the faith, and it morphed into this very European expression of religion, which was very different from the sort of Levantine, Middle Eastern origins of the faith. So on top of the fact that there's no scriptural evidence for celebrating birthdays or saints celebrating their birthdays or Christ, celebrations of those events tended to lead to behavioral and moral excess, like drinking and sex and basically every bad thing that can happen at a party, which was a big no-no. The early Christians tended to have kind of a strongly stoic bent to their worship, and that's capital S stoic. These guys at this point are mostly Greek or part of the Greco-Roman philosophical religious tradition. And this early era of Christianity is largely defined by the application of that philosophical thought to Christian doctrine. In the eyes of the church father, it would have been more appropriate to celebrate the date of a saint's martyrdom, which was the day that they were truly born into the kingdom of heaven, and therefore of much greater import. It would take centuries before this approach softened, likely due to the inability, frankly, to keep the common working person from enjoying a good party and a holiday every now and then. So fuck it. They're going to celebrate it anyway. Let's just incorporate it into the official, way that we recognize the day.
Yeah.
Another big issue is that Jesus, the actual person, if he wasn't a mushroom man, was born in relative obscurity in a region that was, at the time, on the outer rim of a major imperial apparatus, which is the source of the most concrete documentation that we have from that time. This is not to say that Palestine was objectively less important than other parts of the empire, but to the people keeping the records and writing the histories, it absolutely was. So we don't actually know for sure when Jesus was born. On top of that, we're confounded by competing calendars, namely the traditional Jewish lunisolar calendar and the Roman calendar, which had not yet adopted the Gregorian reforms, which included things like leap years, etc. So it's all a big mess. Now, our current Western calendar is based on the Julian calendar, the Roman calendar, which had some methods of, sort of making the uneven length of a year fit neatly into 300 some odd days. And the Gregorian calendar accounts for that slightly better, but still time is drifting. And, that's just because things are imperfect, right? The way that the world orbits the sun is not perfect. And it is slightly changing over time. So it's all a big mess, right? The first known reference to December 25th as the birth date of Jesus comes from the Roman Christian historian Sextus Iulius Africanus. Born in Jerusalem circa 180 CE, his great masterwork, the Chronographiae, detailed over 5 volumes the entire history of creation, from a proposed start date in 5499 BCE up through the then present date of 221 CE. So he's living and writing about 2 centuries after the life of Christ. In this work, Sextus attempted to reconcile Greek, Roman, and Egyptian histories and mythologies with the Jewish traditional histories of the Old Testament and the New Testament that was now adopted by the burgeoning Christian faith, of which he was a member. And it's widely regarded as the first to do so to such a complete degree. This chronology, as well as his genealogies of Christ, linking him to King David and that sort of biblical lineage, proved immensely popular and beneficial in raising the broader public acceptance of Christianity within the Greco-Roman sphere. If there's one thing that the Greek and Roman elites of the empire at this point respect, it is a well-written history, chronology, and genealogy. If you have that, it lends a lot of credence to whatever whether it's a claim to imperial authority or the validity of your religion. If you can provide some sources, they like that.
Yep.
So it would be another century before December 25th, specifically, was accepted and ratified by the fledgling Roman Church in their own chronograph of 354. And over time, the date came to stick. And there was no defining moment. There was no okay, it's officially this. It really was just a process of kind of elimination by which, over time, it gradually became to be broadly accepted that, okay, that date makes a lot of sense to us. But why that specific date?
Ooh, Merry Christmas, Christmas comes this time each year. Well, way up north where the air gets cold, there's a tale about Christmas that you've all been told. And a real famous cat all dressed up in red, and he spends the whole year working out in his sled. It's the little Saint Nick. It's the little Saint Nick. Just a little bobsled we call little Saint Nick. But she'll walk into a bargain with a 4-speed stick. She's candy apple red with a ski for a wheel. And when Santa hits the gas, man, just watch her peel. It's the little Saint Nick. Little Saint Nick. It's the little Saint Nick. Little Saint Nick. Run, run, reindeer. Run, run, reindeer. Run, run, reindeer. Run, run, reindeer.
When, by all accounts, in the Gospels themselves, which again may or may not have even been written concurrently with the life of Christ, there's a lot of different accounts of the coming of Christ, and they don't all point to the winter, right? So why this specific date? And here we must give a nod to my intrepid co-host, Evan, who has produced a stunning series of episodes over the years titled Ancient Mysteries, wherein he has explored many of the secret and profane pagan religious traditions in the Romanosphere and beyond. One of these esoteric cults, which gained major traction in the Roman Empire in the area roughly coinciding with the birth of Christ, was the cult of Sol Invictus, or the Unconquered Sun. The Romans, as we have discussed many times on this show, loved perhaps nothing more than religious syncretism. And Christianity, particularly during its formative years, and certainly by the 3rd and 4th centuries CE, was a thoroughly Roman religion. The cult of Sol Invictus was a classic example of the Roman love for an ever-evolving pantheon of gods, and the incorporation of religious practices and ideas from their various vassals, tributaries, and neighbor states into their own kind of utterly confusing and evolving patchwork of beliefs was a huge part of that. Their own sun god, called simply Sol, or in retrospect, Sol Indiges, was essentially a pastiche of the Greek god Helios, the literal embodiment of the sun, though sometimes Apollo took sun on some of his characteristics, and then, traditional Italian tribal practices. It is like all things Roman, it gets kind of muddy, so we don't need to spend too much time on it. Sol Invictus was a sort of revived sun god, perhaps himself a pastiche of the ancient Syrian sun god Elagabal, whose worship had originally been brought to Rome under the emperor Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, himself posthumously known as Elagabalus, or Heliogabalus, for his Syrian origins and devotion to this particular deity. Sometimes I say deity. Do you ever say deity, or is it always just deity?
No, it's always deity.
Or deity is what I say. I don't mean to say
Deity.
deity.
Deity doesn't make sense.
No. I think
Deity,
that's just me
deity
misspeaking.
sometimes so. Mm-hmm.
Deity.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, I'm just, what can I say?
Yeah.
Elagabalus, the emperor, did not live long, and was infamously gender fluid, shirking the traditional Roman norms of virtuous masculinity. And so his attempt to bring the cult to the forefront in Rome did not really take, and sort of mostly dissipated shortly after his public assassination at 18 by the Praetorian Guard in 222 CE. Classic. Mm-hmm. Note the timeline. This is all happening concurrently with the evolution, incubation, and growth of Christianity from its origins as an offshoot of the Jewish faith into a thoroughly Greco-Romanized faith, which spread throughout the capillaries of the empire and across the known world. So Elagabalus was being killed like a year after the chronology written by, what's his name? Julius Africanus is being published. So this is like all happening at the same time. Approximately 50 years after Elagabalus, the Emperor Aurelian would revive the worship of Sol Invictus as the new official state religion in the 270s CE. Now, as an aside, and a further nod to my beloved Evan, Sol Invictus, in one form or another, is known to have played a prominent role in the Mithraic mysteries, and is often associated with the cult of Mithras, which, again, if you want to learn more about, we have episodes about that. However, due to the ever-shifting identity of Sol as a Roman deity and the, mysterious nature of the Mithraic mysteries, which certainly predate the reigns of Elagabalus and Aurelian, it is unknown and perhaps even unlikely that the Mithraic Sol Invictus and the later Aurelian Sol Invictus shared much in common besides a name and a general association with the sun. But who knows? And that's the fun with mystery cults. If you want to learn more about that, go and listen to the Ancient Mysteries series, which is compiled conveniently for you in our Spotify playlist titled LU Series, for those who use that devil app.
Even though that's not the reason they're called mysteries, that's kind of the thing about the Ancient Mysteries, is that they're really quite mysterious, because there's not a ton that we know about them.
Yeah.
Like we just need to piece together some things, but I mean, there's a lot unknown and unsaid.
And unread. They're mysterious.
Yeah.
Anyway, after Aurelian's patronage of the cult of Sol, worship of that deity rose in prestige within the empire, particularly among the military, and it spread rapidly throughout the realm, kind of concurrently with Christianity. December 25th was traditionally celebrated as the Dies Solis Invicti Nati, or the day of the birth of the unconquered sun, and was timed on the Roman calendar to coincide with a proposed conception around the time of the spring equinox, around March 25th. This celebration marked the annual rebirth of the sun and his preparation to rise from his winter slumber to once again conquer cold and death and bring life and spring back to the earth. Now, as someone living in a colder region, this timeline might seem a bit off, but the closer you are to the equator, as many of these people were in this era, the earlier spring comes. So it's a little less wonky, but still, I mean, we're talking about, it's a winter festival, and they're looking forward to spring coming and the end of, the cold.
Rome's not really that much closer to the equator than
Yeah, but I'm not really talking about Rome so much as I'm talking about like frontier soldiers in the Middle East and out in the desert and across the empire.
No.
But again, it's like it's a hopeful thing. It's like, okay, it's really cold and shitty out now, but we're kind of at the midpoint there in the winter, and Sol Invictus is coming, and we can look forward to his return and to glory and light and everything coming back to life. Whereas for us, like, it's pretty normal for things to stay cold and shitty like until like
May.
March or April. Yeah. In a lot of parts of Europe, especially in not insular, what's the word I'm looking for? The landlocked countries, it's more mild. And then, as you get into like the Eastern Empire, things start to warm up a little earlier, So the obvious connection between Christ and his unconquered son figure was not lost on the growing Christian community, who saw numerous parallels between the two figures. And as citizens of the Roman Empire who had not probably totally lost their taste for religious syncretism yet, they began to sort of conflate the two. The period wherein both Christianity and the cult of Sol Invictus coexisted within the empire was relatively long, about 100 years, which is more than enough time for traditions to become intertwined with one another. That being said, the status of the two religions was legally distinct. While the Sol Invictus cult ceased as the official state religion after Aurelian's reign, it was very much a legal and recognized tradition, and maintained its public popularity throughout this period. Christianity, on the other hand,
Constantine messed around with Sol Invictus before he adopted Christianity.
Yeah, you're presupposed. We're literally right about to talk about that. Christianity, on the other hand, no, it's not your bad. Christianity, on the other hand, remained an officially illegal faith, largely due to the insistence of its adherents that there was only one true God, all caps, and he was certainly not the sun or the emperor or Jupiter or whoever.
Jupiter.
While the degrees to which Christians were persecuted under the imperial state varied tremendously, and there were some periods of really brutal persecution, it was not until a certain late Roman emperor stepped in, who Evan just name-dropped, that Christianity truly got a leg up in the race of the religions to the top.
Yep.
When Constantine the Great finally declared Christianity legal and formally publicly converted to the faith in 312 CE following his Edict of Milan, it propelled the faith into a sort of conversion overdrive, and the world hasn't really been the same since. Now, famously, Constantine claimed to have seen a vision of a radiant figure prior to his stunning victory against his rival Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in October 312, which helped to cement his sole role over the Western Empire. He would then go on to take sole role over the whole empire. This figure, which he initially claimed to be Apollo and then Sol Invictus, and only later Jesus Christ, told him to paint a certain symbol on his men's shields which would guarantee victory. Now, obviously, this symbol is now widely regarded as a Christian cross, and Constantine is considered a saint. But as Evan just mentioned, and we have discussed on this show, there was likely more than a little religious opportunism on display here from the wily Constantine, who, as Evan said, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like Constantine, he kind of, I talked a bit about this in the final Ancient Mysteries series when we started talking more about like monotheism, but Constantine, he was really just kind of looking for a unifying symbol at the time. Obviously the Roman Empire was quite fractured, dealing with the crisis of the 3rd century. There was constant, civil strife, constant kind of like, I guess, low-grade civil wars, competing generals, all this kind of stuff. And so Constantine was really just looking for, like, a unifying force. And, yeah, he played around a little bit with which one he wanted to do. Like I said, he kind of toyed around with Sol Invictus, even before the battle at the Milvian Bridge. I believe he kind of toyed with it. But then, finally he settled on his final story, which was the Cairo upon the shields of his men,
Yeah. So, it's we can see that, with the benefit of like modern historiography, you can see that sort of change. But at the time, people weren't privy to all the information that we are now. And this just sort of shows the interchangeability in the minds of many Romans of the figures of Sol Invictus and Christ. And it sort of made the adoption of the December 25th date for Christ's birth or Christmas that much easier of a pill to swallow for many. We're already celebrating this sort of rebirth of this sort of unconquerable sun figure. What if the sun was actually the Son of God, right? And that's an easy pill for people to swallow. We already celebrate, so we change the names a little bit. Even still, it must be noted that this specific date is only really broadly accepted in Western Christendom, derived ultimately from the traditions of the Roman Catholic Church itself, an evolved apparatus of the Roman state religion and the worship of Sol Invictus, Apollo, etc. In the Eastern Christian traditions, the date is still varied, with Armenian Orthodox Christians, and Armenia being the first state to adopt Christianity as the state religion. They celebrate on January 6th, which is the traditional Catholic date of Christ's baptism. And Ethiopian Christians, another really, really ancient homeland of the Christian faith. Yeah, that's more Egypt. Ethiopian Christianity is distinct.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's in that same sort of sphere.
Same area, yeah.
They celebrate on January 7th. And these are, as I said, far and away two of the oldest Christian nations, dating back to the absolute earliest days of the religion. So their traditions reflect on that initial confusion over when and whether or not at all to celebrate the birth of Christ. Now, in most ancient Christian traditions, the entire week following Christmas, known as Christmastide, was considered a time for holy celebration, though this practice has waned in Europe and the Americas. Most of Europe still gets the day after Christmas off as an additional holiday, and that's sort of an extension of the Christmastide thing. But here we certainly don't. Additionally, the celebration of Advent, or roughly the month leading up to Christ's birth, has traditionally been an extremely important time period, and is the origin of the popular Advent calendar tradition, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Though traditionally Advent begins on the Sunday closest to November 30th, not necessarily on December 1st, which is now the common marker. We celebrate those 24 days leading up to the birth of Christ. I also want to take an aside here to briefly point out that the word Christmas is obviously an English term for the holiday and is actually distinct from the naming conventions in most other languages. It's also linked with another pagan solstice celebration, which I will detail shortly. Derived from the old English and then Middle English Christusmas, meaning Christ's Mass, or a day celebrating the Eucharist in Christ's name. Normally, the Eucharist is celebrated on a Sunday in the Western tradition, but on the birthday of Christ, it is celebrated supplementally regardless of day. And that's true for Easter or whatever. You celebrate a specific Mass regardless of what day it falls on for certain special days of the year. Most other languages that are based in Latin in the West have names for the holiday emphasizing its connection to Christ's birth, i.e. French Noël or the Italian Natale, both derived from the Latin natalis, or birthday.
That's where Noel comes from.
Yep.
Learned something today.
There you go. Hopefully you learn a couple things today. Prior to the adoption of this name in English in the Middle Ages, circa the 11th century or thereabouts, the holiday was known to English speakers either by the Latin name Dies Natalis or by the older Germanic name of Yule, which we often still hear tossed around in the English-speaking world, as well as in the Scandinavian and the Baltic states like Sweden and Estonia and Finland.
Gotta lay down a Yule log.
Exactly.
Bro?
Yeah, brother. So Yule is an anglicization of the earlier Anglo-Saxon Yeol, which was the traditional Germanic winter solstice celebration, which would fall right around, you guessed it, December 25th. Actually, usually on the 21st or the 22nd, but close enough. As was true in the Greco-Roman world, the various Germanic pagan traditions were intimately tied with the natural world, though we know far less of their traditional practices, save through, you guessed it, that classic Roman biased writing. Still, we do know a bit about the Yule celebration in general, and it will definitely help us to understand the relatively recent adoption of certain ubiquitous modern Christmas traditions, like the Christmas tree or wreath. Now, Yule is explicitly connected to Germanic mythology, and the iteration of this likely extremely diverse religious tradition that is best understood to modern historians is through the Norse religion and their gods. That religion, of course, being the sort of last bastion of the Germanic, diaspora of religions that existed into the medieval period, because Scandinavia was sort of isolated and this sort of holdout of that traditional pagan practice. So we just have more examples of that surviving to this day that we can use to look at. Of the Norse deities, Odin was the foremost and chief, and among his many epithets, he was often referred to as Yulnir, or the Yule One. Now, this gets a little complex, but we can possibly trace our modern English word jolly, which is widely associated with Christmas and Santa Claus, to this term Julnir via the Old French term jolif, though the Norse-French language connection is tenuous, to be sure, with the biggest point of contact there being in Normandy, which, perhaps coincidentally, is the major connection between the French and English histories and languages. Either way, ancient Gothic calendars, and I'm talking about the Goths, Visa and Ostro, their calendars reference the holiday of Yule, and the Venerable Bede, who we've also talked about in Evan's History of the Kings of Britain,
Bede, yeah.
noted that Yule was a month of the Anglo-Saxon calendar, roughly corresponding to December or December into January.
Having the honorific Venerable is so sick.
Yeah, dude. We should hope that we can one day achieve that status.
Yeah.
The status of venerability.
Yeah.
Rumors abound about the connection between Germanic nature worship and the decoration of the home with pine boughs and holly, though it is unknown to what degree this is an invention of modern neo-pagan revivalist groups. What is widely accepted is that the Christian king Hakon I the Good, credited with the Christianization of Norway in the 10th century, is thought to have officially rescheduled the celebration of Yule through his rule to coincide with the December 25th date, and the ensuing absorption of Yule traditions into the Christian celebration of Christmas. In the Saga of Hakon the Good, penned by the famous Icelandic poet Snorri Sturluson, to whom we owe the vast majority of our knowledge, or at least the modern, most popular depictions of Norse mythology. The pagan Yule celebrations of Scandinavia are outlined, involving animal sacrifice, including the use of pine boughs called lauteinar to sprinkle their blood, called laut, around the temple and on the participants, before the meat of the killed animals was cooked and a ceremonial drink passed around. Then everyone would feast, and toasts for good luck and peace and fortune would be shared among the revelers, which sounds like a pretty Christmassy thing to do. It should be noted, and I don't think I wrote it here, but Snorri Sturluson was writing in the 12th century in Iceland, so he was a Christian, and a lot of the sagas that have survived to this day that are actually written down in like legible Latinized script were written by later Christian Scandinavians, so they're recounting earlier pagan tradition, and they probably are our best window into that. But even still, this was not stuff that was written contemporaneously with Hakon, who himself was living in the 10th century. So everything's been a little Christianized, and it's hard to kind of tell like what is traditional Germanic mythology and what is being filtered through the lens of like, someone 2 centuries later who is kind of looking back on their own history with a mix of like fascination and kind of religious revulsion, And that's sort of just the story of European religious history in general, right? You always have to kind of wonder like who was writing this and why, In the pagan traditions of the Central and Northern Europeans, and frankly in many other cultures, this was true in parts of the Middle East, where trees like this grew, fir trees and their boughs were thought to be symbols of life and vitality, owing to their evergreen nature, meaning they don't change color or drop leaves during the winter, and their apparent defiance of the coming of winter. Yule is also commonly linked with the Wild Hunt, not just from The Witcher, which was a ghastly procession led by Odin in the Scandinavian tradition, which was a common theme in Germanic and Celtic European traditions. The hunt would periodically streak across the sky, riding flying steeds, horses, reindeer, I don't know.
Santa deniers in shambles. Dude.
Yeah, dude.
Fuck you.
They hate to see the Wild Hunt coming, folks.
Yeah.
And would coincide with an increase in sightings of ghosts and the undead in whatever realm they visited, which is a big part of the Christmas tradition in Anglo-Saxon and then ensuing English mythology, and is actually a big part of the inspiration behind Charles Dickens' classic Christmas Carol, which is by far my favorite piece of Christmas media. I fucking love Christmas Carol. He sees ghosts and they teach him about how to be a better person, right? The Anglo-Saxon celebration...
Kill him with hammers, yeah.
Right. The Anglo-Saxon celebration of Muldranicht, or Mother's Night, is also attested by Bede as taking place around the winter solstice among the Anglo-Saxons, and was a celebration of the Disir, or the collective female ancestors, who were honored as the forebears of the people and protectors of their future and fertility. They are also associated with the fate-weaving Norns of Norse mythology and are a possible connection to the Christian tradition of the Virgin Mary and the sacred birth of Christ. And I don't mean to say that they inspired that, but just to say that it was an easy point of connection when you're looking to convert Anglo-Saxons who already have this sort of Yule celebration that's linked with this celebration of fertility and the female ancestors, and say, well, you know who the most important female ancestor was? Is Mary, the mother of Christ, right? These are just all points where the church could say, actually, even though you've been tricked by Satan into celebrating this pagan version, you guys didn't realize it, but you've already been celebrating Christmas, you know? And that's sort of the story here. It's like this idea that, you know, these existing traditions were like absorbed into Christmas rather than the, you know, somehow Germanic pagan traditions inspired, you know, Jews in the Middle East to celebrate Christ or whatever, you know?
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel. You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul, Mr. Grinch. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. You're a vile one, Mr. Grinch. You have termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinch. Given the choice between the two of you, I'd take the seasick crocodile. You're a foul one, Mr. Grinch. You're a nasty, wasty skunk. Your heart is full of unwashed socks. Your soul is full of gunk, Mr. Grinch.
While there have been some inklings of the tie-ins with modern Christian traditions in the celebrations that I have discussed here, it may surprise you to learn that, as far as we can tell, the vast majority of the modern aesthetic trappings of the Christmas holiday are thought to be largely modern inventions. Modern in the historical context, referring to like the last 3 centuries or so. This is not to say that they are not rooted in ancient traditions, but more that whatever connection they have to the past, it is certainly not to Middle Eastern or early Christian tradition, and that their connections to their likely or supposed pagan roots have been muddied by time and intentional obfuscation by the church. The Christmas tree, perhaps the most popular and visible of the secular Christian traditions, is maybe the best example of this. Originating in its modern decorative sense in the German, Czech, and Baltic states during the 16th century among Lutheran Protestant populations, early Protestant reformers like Martin Luther and Martin Bucer were adoptees of this tradition, and the Moravian Church of Bohemia, another early Protestant denomination, are thought to have originated the use of lit candles as a decoration on these trees, which is an insane thing to do.
Sounds dangerous.
It was dangerous. Spoiler, it was a bad idea.
Yeah.
These may have been adaptations of the Christian paradise tree, itself a part of the nativity tradition wherein a tree was decorated with apples to symbolize the infamous tree in Eden. Evergreen trees were often used for their hardiness and durability. Even after being cut, you could just put them in water and they last forever. We still do it. Mm-hmm. Tertullian and John Chrysostom both reference the use of evergreen laurels as traditional decoration for Christian households as symbols of eternal life. Christmas trees rapidly expanded in scope and popularity throughout Europe, and as electricity was introduced, electric lights came to replace candles, which likely saw a rapid decrease in Christmas fire-related fatalities.
Fucking idiots.
Eventually, Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, both of German royal extraction, were photographed in front of the decorated Christmas tree that they kept in their house in the palace. And the trend became immensely popular in England in the 19th century and similarly spread to the Americas, both through English influence and the practices of German immigrants. It remained a symbol of German culture and heritage throughout the 19th century, however, and even then was largely reserved to the middle and upper classes, being largely unknown or unpracticed among poor and rural populations, even in Europe. They did not achieve ubiquitous status as a symbol of Christmas until well into the 20th century. It was not until this time that they began to be widely displayed in churches, and in fact, it was not until 1982 that a Christmas tree was displayed at the Vatican, formally ending a long-held Catholic prejudice against what had been considered a thoroughly Protestant tradition. The Christmas wreath, similarly, was actually an American innovation of the 19th century, with it succeeding the German Advent wreath, with an evergreen ring symbolizing eternity, everlasting life, again, coming to be a sort of ubiquitous aspect of Christmas decoration in the United States and then spreading back to Europe.
Yeah, wreaths are big.
Yeah, wreaths are cool. I like a wreath. I like Aretha Franklin.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to go for that low-hanging fruit.
Because I'm stupid, dude.
Yeah.
Gift giving, another big Christmas thing. The kids love it. Done traditionally on the night of Christmas Eve in most of Europe and Latin America, and on the morning of Christmas Day in the United States, UK, and Canada, has its roots in the giving of small sweets and baubles to children surrounding Advent and Christmas, but is largely a function of the modern commercialization of the holiday, which has come to kind of define the season for many, especially in the West. The Advent calendar, similarly a 19th century German innovation, took its modern form as a way to celebrate the month of Advent prior to the coming of Christ, and was standardized to a 24-day calendar starting December 1st through the traditional though the traditional Catholic month of Advent is calculated slightly differently. Christmas music has long been a component of the holiday, and while the soulless corporate churning and rechurning of old classic popular songs has become a source of derision for many, justifiably so, there's some old classics that are fine, but like so much of it is just so fucking boring.
Shoot me in the fucking dick. I hate Christmas music.
Even so,
Sorry,
no, I'm with you. Even so, despite that being a valid and true outlook, Christmas music has its roots in hymns and songs of post-Renaissance Europe, where Baroque and classical compositions gave way to popular Christmas carols sung by groups in public spaces, often with a link to Christian charity or with an aim to spread goodwill around the holiday. Song and verse have always been intimately linked with prayer and religious practice, and so the connection here shouldn't be surprising to anyone, though the modern, quote-unquote classics can be pretty grating. Fun aside, and this is just something I learned in the process of researching this show, Jingle Bells is racist, believe it or not, because we learn everything is. Written by James Lord Pierpont in 1857 as The One-Horse Open Sleigh, the song has its roots in the wildly racist minstrel show movement, which was popular in the U.S. at the time. The son of famed Connecticut minister and abolitionist John Pierpont, the Boston-born James was the black sheep of the family and was an avowed bigot who profited immensely from his work writing for traveling minstrel shows. When the Civil War broke out, and this is the ultimate display of being a piece of shit, James broke with the rest of his New England family and their explicitly abolitionist stance, and actually traveled south and joined the Confederacy, fighting to preserve the institution of slavery.
What an absolute fucking
Yeah, dude, what a piece of shit
person.
I know. Jingle Bells, as it came to be known for its popular refrain, was initially part of a sketch that he had written, highlighting the, quote, unnatural attempts by black slaves and freedmen to try to assimilate into American and European culture by enjoying winter frivolities like a sleigh ride through the snow. And yes, James Pierpont's nephew, through his sister Juliette Pierpont, was fucking John Pierpont Morgan, J.P. Morgan. Fun little connection there.
Nice. Yep. So that's how we tie Jingle Bells to
fucking Nazism and like the age of like the robber baron and like the dominance of capitalism in the American
and
fucking
like
zeitgeist.
Fucking Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, dude. I thought you would like that little connection there, dude.
Yeah, and like drug money laundering. Yeah.
JP Morgan's like aggressively racist uncle wrote Jingle Bells to like make fun of black people trying to have fun at Christmas time. Like, Enjoy the holidays. So anyway,
What a fucking deranged thing to write a song about.
I know, dude.
Look at these idiots.
It's so mean-spirited
yeah.
to like a fucking extreme
Like just
degree.
watching people just like enjoying the
Yeah,
snow.
and he's like,
and
"Look at
whatnot,"
these
and being like,
morons
look at
thinking-
these fucking dullards.
Sorry, you guys can't sit with us. So
What a
anyway,
piece
not
of
all
shit,
of these.
man.
Yeah, 100%. Not. But I will say, his dad is awesome. He was like an abolitionist, like old school, like fiery New England abolitionist preacher. We like that shit. That's if there's a Christianity that I can get behind, that's it. You know.
Yeah.
So not all of this like cultural development proceeded without interruption. There was still an echo of the old distaste for such celebration around ostensibly solemn religious events. Most famously, perhaps, in the tradition we're discussing, the followers of John Calvin, the Calvinists, and their English successors, the Puritans, echoed the sentiments of Origen and the other church fathers that the celebration of Christmas was utterly sinful and should be abolished. This view was especially popular amongst the Puritans of England and New England, and in both locations, Christmas was actually successfully banned for a period of time. In 1647, the English Parliament, under the sway of the Puritan Oliver Cromwell, banned Christmas. Though this, like, in England, they fucking love Christmas. And this led to much social unrest and was eventually repealed in 1660. Though I was talking to some of my family over there about this, and a lot of like old school traditional English Christmas customs like died out because of this. You know, it was like a real point of like we lost a lot of interesting kind of weird traditions in history here. And then in our lovely home state of Massachusetts, a 1659 edict, which was inspired by this parliamentary decision, also banned the celebration of Christmas entirely for a time, with a 5-shilling penalty for anyone caught keeping the holiday. This stayed in effect until 1681, though apparently Christmas actually remained really unpopular, or at least relatively so, in New England well into the mid-19th century, when social pressure and cultural drift and an influx of people from other states and countries finally broke our like stubborn embargo on holiday joy.
Yeah, when my dirty papist brethren started
100%.
Pouring into Massachusetts, they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you people?
But then even they like didn't like Christmas trees and didn't like all that. The Catholics didn't do that. They were like, that is satanic Protestant nonsense.
Yeah.
So the whole holiday history is really, really fucked. And lastly, and this is the last thing I want to talk about, you might have noticed I haven't talked about Santa Claus. And that would be crazy. I'd be remiss if I didn't. So before wrapping up this holiday special,
Are you gonna wait? I don't see anything here. We're talking about the Dutch. Are we talking? Are we
Yes.
gonna talk about the other Dutch fella, Zwarte Piet?
yes.
Okay, cool.
What do you mean you don't see it's in there? I'll get that.
I see it. Yeah.
All right.
I see
So
it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Santa Claus, the one figure who has probably come to personify the Christmas tradition in the Western world more than any other. Now, believe it or not, Santa Claus is not ubiquitous, truly. In much of Europe, it is still said that Christmas gifts are brought by the baby Jesus himself, which is fucking crazy. In Italy, and this is one of my faves, they have La Befana, who's like a sort of traveling Christmas witch, who's like scary. Like she like will punish you, sort of like Krampus, which is another like Alpine tradition. But La Befana will bring you little gifts, but she'll also like beat the shit out of you with like a stick if you're bad. Then there's Krampus.
I prefer Bifana. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know you like bifana, which is like a delicious Portuguese pork sandwich.
Yeah. You can also get like Bifana like steaks, basically, like Bifana cutlets, and you get, like a steak. So so fun.
But yeah, they have Krampus in the Alps, like in Austria and Switzerland, who's like a demon who, like, if you're bad, Santa won't come. Krampus will like tie you up with chains and like
Beat you with a switch.
beat you with a switch or whatever. So like, there's that. The Christian Saint Nicholas, who is the probably the truest predecessor to Santa Claus, is also quite common, and his Dutch iteration, Sinterklaas or Sint Niklaas, is perhaps the most direct inspiration on our own popular image of the character in the U.S. The real Saint Nicholas, a Greek bishop from Myra in modern Turkey, and the patron saint of all children, was renowned for his extreme generosity in life, and the Dutch Santa is said to still reside in Anatolia somewhere in the off-season, where instead of elves, he has fucking black slaves, led by a guy named Zwarte Piet, or Black Pete. They call them helpers now, but like in the Netherlands, white people still be doing blackface as part of their.
Oh,
like,
it is
traditional-
crazy. Like, literally search it up right now. Like,
It's
crazy to see.
Yeah.
Like, they
do like a fucking like minstrel style, like shoe
Yeah.
polish, big red lips, blackface. Like it's bad.
Yeah.
But they're
No,
like,
100%.
whatever, we're Dutch. We're not even real people. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, like, literally stop right now. Take out your phone, even if you're driving. I don't care. Barrel through that stop sign. Search that up right now, like Black Pete or Zwarte Piet, Netherlands, and it is fucking nuts. Also, I do want to say Turkey claims that they have found the actual Saint Nicholas is like grave.
Interesting.
It's like sarcophagus.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that at time of writing, so
Yeah.
it's not in here. But also something that I sort of left out here. The other main inspiration for Santa Claus is the English Father Christmas, who is the traditional British personification of Christmas, who was sort of himself rooted in almost like a druidic image. He and Santa Claus have sort of melded into becoming one kind of thing, and so a lot of people in the UK will still call him Father Christmas, but he's been thoroughly Santa Clausized. Santa is fucking American, all right? And we still call Santa Saint Nick, but he's essentially been divorced from his religious occupation in the United States.
Yeah.
The Dutch Sinterklaas is the origin of the look, the big white beard, the red suit, the white fur cuffs, big boots and belt. And the sack of presents for kids, but he wears a bishop's mitre and carries a crozier, and he rides a boat and a horse instead of a sleigh. The modern image of the flying sleigh, itself perhaps a reference to the wild hunt, that flying ghostly procession through the sky, is largely derived from the classic anonymous 1823 poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, which we often now call The Night Before Christmas, for it's the way it begins, wherein the sleigh and the flying reindeer and the infamous chimney trick, that kind of all originates in that poem. And there are some other earlier attempts at the same kind of thing, also anonymous, so we don't really know if it's like the same author or what, but that sort of early 1800s in the United States is where that kind of classic image of like the flying sleigh of reindeer shit, that all comes from. And that's now become ubiquitous over the last 200 years in American culture, and is now the most popular image associated with Christmas, not Jesus. Other popular stories from the 19th century, particularly, as I said, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, have helped to kind of further flesh out the modern image of the holiday in the Western zeitgeist. Now, from here, essentially everything else is just pop culture. So like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, Coca-Cola advertisements. It's all indicative of the relatively fast transformation in the hands of enterprising American capitalists of Christmas from what was still ostensibly a religious festival, which had now been thoroughly steeped in pagan traditions, into a commercial celebration of spending and excess that for many has lost much of the magic that the holiday may have once held.
I mean, Coca-Cola itself is like really instrumental in like the view of Christmas as it is today. It was basically an advertisement for drinking some nice pop soda.
Cocaine soda, dude.
Yeah, cocaine soda. During the winter, usually it's like, it's refreshing. You drink it when it's hot out.
Oh, 100%.
But no, they were like, nah, we need to boost our sales. So like, I love the images of like, Santa
and they already
Claus
have that
whatnot.
color scheme, dude, red and white. I mean, that's pretty perfect.
Yep. Christmas is an op, dude.
Modern Christmas, modern American Christmas, you can make that. But I didn't want to dwell too much on that. But like, it's lame that it's all just like the idea of going shopping on Black Friday is so sad to me. Like, hang out and eat a turkey sandwich with your
My
family.
dad used to take me with him when I was a kid. It would make me wake up at like 4 a.m. He's just like dragging me through the mall, and I'm just like, while he buys stuff for my mom.
Unbelievable. What a rude thing to do.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's all to say. I like Christmas, right? I can still get down with a Rankin Bass production, right, or a little Dr. Seuss. As I said, I love A Muppet Christmas Carol. I think that is a magical film. But I sometimes wonder what Origen and John Chrysostom would have thought about the Christmas tree in Rockefeller Plaza, or what Odin would have thought about Origen and John Chrysostom. The modern celebration of Christmas has been divorced from the 19th century religious and cultural traditions of many modern that many modern American evangelicals seem to be so obsessed with preserving. But to the church fathers, those very traditions and religious observances would have seemed frivolous and blasphemous to begin with. Indeed, a medieval European Catholic or a Syrian Orthodox Christian would have found those traditions mostly unrecognizable, and would have likely themselves kept Christmas in radically different ways on totally different days. So I hope that this has all served as kind of fun listening and a cool example of the way that our human traditions migrate and shift and change, and highlights to those amongst us who yearn for the days when, Christ was still a part of Christmas that, hey, maybe he really never was to begin with. Or wasn't that much,
Shut the fuck up.
Just shut the fuck up and enjoy the fucking...
Shut the fuck up and
have a
eat
cup
the
of hot cocoa,
cookies.
dude. Like,
drink the eggnog, you fucking
just spend some time with your family and, like, have a good time. The lights are nice. Like, the fucking Christmas tree is nice. Like, just smells good. Enjoy yourself. So for those of you who celebrate, Merry Christmas. For those of you who don't, Happy Holidays. Enjoy the day off if you get one. I hope that you do. And this time of year, the part of Christmas that I like is peace on earth and goodwill towards your fellow man. And I think that is certainly in line with my politics, and I hope that it is with all of yours. And I want everybody out there to this can be a tough time for people. So, just be patient with one another, be kind where you can, and try to keep that part of, what I think of as the Christmas holiday in the forefront of your mind as you go about your shopping and your fucking eating out and whatever. Just be nice to each other,
Yeah,
and that's that.
Before we leave today, I do just want to kind of mention a bit. Obviously, we're have a global fan base and across the country and whatnot, but we have quite a base of support in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, where the two of us live. So I do just kind of want to briefly mention the shooting at Brown University yesterday. I won't really get too much into that or politics of it or whatever. I just want to say I hope all of the Left Unread fandom out there,
yes,
if you are affected by this, I just want to offer our deepest condolences, and we hope that you're all safe. Obviously this was like pretty traumatic for a lot of people that live around here. Like last night, like I was back home in New Bedford and Fairhaven all day. I got back home around 8 p.m. last night. I mean, fucking helicopters circling everywhere because they had no idea where the shooter was. I could hear helicopters circling like my area until I went to bed around like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to say I hope all of our fans out there and their family and loved ones and friends were unaffected by this tragedy, and just wanted to express our support for the whole city and anybody that was caught up in this.
Yep, and I mirror everything that Evan said, and as always, whenever an event like this happens, it's easy, I think, for a lot of us to get kind of swept away in the now frequent. We're always hearing about senseless acts of mass violence like this, and obviously this is something that's kind of close to home for Evan and I. But like the reality is, like this is all a result of like a deeply demented, kind of sick era in our society, and it's sad whenever this happens, and it's sad every time, and I don't know what else to say, that hasn't already been said better than I could. But yeah, I agree with everything Evan said, and we love you all, and again, just try to be good to each other, and kind of keep each other in your thoughts, and if you pray in your prayers, whatever you do, however you do that, just
keep on
keeping on, and have a good, safe, healthy holiday season. And with that, you might hear some more out of us before the end of the year. You will hear from us, but but you whether it's just us chatting or written stuff, whatever. But that's the note we'll leave on today, as we care about you all, and we hope you're all well and safe and good.
Yep. All love, Unread family. And as always, see you.
It was Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old mountain tune. I turned my face away, and dreamed about you. Got on a lucky one, came in 18 to 1. I've got a feeling this year's for me and you. So happy Christmas, I love you, baby. I can see a better time when all our dreams come true.
They got cars big as bars, they got rivers of gold, but the windows right through you, it's no place for the old. When you first took my hand on a cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me. You were handsome,
You were pretty queen of New York City. When the band finished playing, they held out for more.
Sinatra was swinging, all the drunks they were singing. We kissed on the corner, then danced through the night. The boys of the NYPD choir were singing, "Go away, babe," and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day. You're a bum, you're a punk.
You're an old slut and junk lying there almost dead on a drip in that bed.
You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap, lousy faggot. Happy Christmas, you're ours. I pray God it's our love.
The boys of the NYPD choir still singing, "Go away, babe," and the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day. I could have been someone.
Well, so could anyone. You took my dreams from me when I first found you.
I kept them with me, babe. I put them with my own. Can't make it all alone. I built my dreams around you. The boys of the NYPD choir still singing, "Go away, babe," and the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day.